The Butler Creek Boys. In 1961, the arrival of the first day of June meant the end of boredom and the start of countless adventures for an 11-year-old boy living in Yuma, Arizona. The devilish school year had finally and mercifully come to an end, and the 3-month respite from math class and Mr. Simpson's stares was finally beginning. That red-haired, freckled-faced boy was me. Only a day or so of sweet bliss had passed when my mother posed an interesting possibility for me. You can stay here or spend the summer in Noel with your grandparents. What would you like to do? I didn't need much time to think about my response. Yuma's summers were hell-like hot, while Noel, Missouri had a river to swim in and what I truly loved, baseball. I want to go to Noel. Little did I know that a terrible evil had come to Noel that was suffocating the small Ozark town. It was a sickening evil that preyed on the young and innocent. In the summer of 1961, Noel, Missouri swelled with strangers. Families from Kansas City and Tulsa piled out of their station wagons, dragging canvas tents to the shaded banks of the Elk River. The water shimmered under the August sun, and the town's merchants braced themselves for the bustle that kept their ledgers alive until the long, quiet winter faded into little more than a frostbitten memory. Not far from Noel's popular night spot, Shadow Lake, Speedy casually stood on Noel's sweltering Main Street sidewalk, a box of mismatched wares spread around him. Today's treasures included a handful of pocket combs, postcards from last summer, and a pile of tin whistles no one had wanted at the hardware store. His worn shirt and tie looked like they'd lived 3 lives, but his smile was bright as he hollered to passers-by. "Folks, I've got gum and candy for sale," he broadcasted while pulling samples of unsold goods from the Ben Franklin 5 and dime out of a paper bag. "Step right up. 1 dime buys you a tune sweeter than the Mockingbirds," he called. The tourists chuckled, and some children begged their parents for coins. Speedy pocketed the change with a bow, as though he were a showman on stage. The seller of seemingly unwanted goods earned his nickname because of his hurried, forward-leaning walk and his intolerance for idle chit-chat. Across the street, Brownie pushed open the door of Carl's Cafe, mop handle resting on his shoulder. He worked nights, polishing floors and wiping counters long after the crowds left. But in the late afternoons, he often walked through town to see who was about. Brownie must surely be considered a pioneer, as he was the first person of color to establish a permanent residence in McDonald County. It was said that he was the only person to have a key to every Main Street establishment in the small town, bringing with him the unmistakable scent of the ammonia used to clean the glass in windows and doors. He asked, "How's business, Speedy?" Speedy grinned. "Business is business, Brownie. Can't say no to nickels when they come jingling." Before Brownie could answer, the slow crunch of boots on gravel drew their attention. It was Floyd Fine, the town marshal, shoulders square under his khaki shirt and badge pinned at a slight angle. At 61, his hair was gray, but his eyes were still sharp as flint. "Speedy, you keeping the sidewalk clear?" Floyd asked, his tone more stern than angry. "Yes, sir, Marshal." "Folks can step around me just fine," Speedy said, tipping an imaginary hat. Floyd's gaze softened, just a fraction. "Good. Orders what keeps this town from falling apart when the tourists double our size." Brownie raised an eyebrow. "Town's doing all right, Marshal. River's full, camps are packed, and everybody's wallets seem looser than last year." "That's so," Floyd admitted, glancing toward the Elk River where laughter drifted on the breeze. "But it only takes one danged fool to turn a summer sour. I hope the troublemakers spend their money somewhere else, and the summer is a quiet one." Those words proved heavier than either man could have imagined. 2 days later, the whisper spread. 2 boys had gone missing. By the following morning, their cold, lifeless bodies were found along the rocky banks of Butler Creek, each with an Ozark Pathfinder's neckerchief tied cruelly around his neck. Floyd Fine stood at the site himself, cicadas buzzing loudly in the trees. The sheriff's men from Pineville had already carted the children away, but the image clung to Floyd's mind. He pulled off his hat and muttered, voice low and furious, "I say by God, what kind of devil does this?" That afternoon, he met Missouri State Trooper Ron Selvey near the bridge. Selvey's uniform was crisp, his shoes polished, a sharp contrast to Floyd's scuffed, worn leather holster. They leaned against the hood of the trooper's cruiser, sun hammering down. "Floyd," Selvey said. I looked over the reports. 2 boys, both local. Neckerchiefs tied like trophies. Floyd spat into the gravel. Ozark Pathfinders neckerchiefs. Their mamas once tied those around their necks for church parades. I say, by God, it's an insult as much as it is a murder. Selvey nodded. "You want me in on this?" "I do," Floyd answered without hesitation. "This town's mine to protect, but Noel's too small for something this big. Folks trust me, but they'll need more than trust if we're to catch who did it. I don't think catching this child murderer is going to be easy, and I could use your help, Ron." The trooper considered a long moment, then gave a slow nod. "Then we'll work it together. Quiet at first. Whoever tied those knots, he knew what he was doing. We find him before the summer's out, or this whole town will be torn apart." That night, Floyd stopped by Carl's cafe. Brownie was inside, mop swishing across the checkerboard floor. The marshal leaned on the counter, tired lines etched deep in his face. "Brownie?" he asked. "You hear anything while you're out cleaning?" "Folks talking, maybe something they shouldn't be." Brownie straightened. "Only talk I hear is about the river and the fishing. Nobody said a word about those boys. But folks are scared. They want to know if you've got any idea who killed those boys." Struggling with his sometimes impatient, inspired stutter, the marshal answered the question, I say. I aim to find out." His voice echoed in the empty cafe. "Somebody damn well has to answer for what was done." Outside, the Elk River drifted past in the dark, carrying the laughter of late-night campers who hadn't yet heard the news. But down along Butler Creek, where the sycamores leaned heavy and the ground still held the memory of 2 small and pure boys, the silence was as thick as one of Carl's famous chocolate malts. And Marshal Floyd, fine, hat pulled low, knew the hunt had only just begun.